Hi, I'm John.
And I'm Cecilia.
Welcome to Crazy Cat Paranormal Speaks.
Hey, Crazy Cats. Welcome to yet another edition of Crazy Cat Paranormal Speaks. You know how I usually give this over-the-top, overblown, crazy, silly, somewhat biographical introduction of my guests? Our guest tonight does not need that. And John won't let me introduce him as Randy from the Ghost Getters. So I'm not going to go over the top and give a big, huge introduction. I just want to say a big, huge welcome to our guest tonight, Mr. Steve Gonsalves. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat for a little bit here about all the stuff that we're into, paranormal and all that fun stuff.
Well, the first thing I want to say is happy belated birthday.
Thanks. It's really nice of you. Thank you. It's been a good birthday week. Had a good time.
Did you get some time off to go be birthday boy?
Oh, no. Didn't do anything on my birthday that required being anywhere. I stayed home with my cat and saw my family, and that was about it.
You have cats?
Yeah, I have one cat. Yep, she's a rag doll, and her name's Fleur.
Aww. See, this was meant to be. This was meant to be. Crazy cats. Steve has a cat.
See that? You
may hear our cats in the background. If you hear our cats in the background, don't worry about it.
Pretty French flower.
Okay.
They get very vocal. All right, I have a very important question for you.
Okay.
And it's a question about you that keeps me up at night.
Mm-hmm.
It's a distraction to me. I just really need your input on this.
We've had discussions here.
We've had discussions on this.
Okay, you got it.
You and Dave, what's with the blue shirt with the polka dots? Is it demonic or possessed? Because it's there, but then even scarier, John's got one in his closet. But we don't know how it got there.
I don't even know why I have one in my closet, but I have one of those shirts.
We don't know where it came from. So what's with the blue shirt?
You know, we have a lot of similar shirts, but his actually, if you zoom in, I'm pretty sure they're actually ice cream cones.
Oh.
Yeah. One time, somebody actually came up to us, and they're like, "You guys really look like you work at Chuck E. Cheese." We're like, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah, that's us.
We had the craziest shirts on.
Yeah, we work at Chuck E. Cheese. That's us.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out how that one got into John's shirt. Nobody remembers buying it. We've never seen it. And all of a sudden, it was just there.
Oh, and you never worked at Chuck E. Cheese?
No, I've never worked at Chuck E. Cheese, and I've never worn this shirt. I'm looking forward to trying it on.
I was in a Chuck E. Cheese once when the girls were little. Does that count?
Oh, nice.
I read somewhere that you started actually doing investigations when you were a teenager.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, that's true.
What got you to that?
I was always interested in the paranormal. I was intrigued by it. I remember when I was a little kid being kind of afraid of it. But, you know, it wasn't until I was maybe 15 or 16 until I started actually investigating in the capacity where I was sort of lending a hand to people and that sort of thing. But it stemmed from an interest. Yeah, teenage years. I started my late teenage years. I worked for the Warrens for a brief point. And that was pretty awesome. I met Mr. Gonsalves, I think when I was 14 years old, maybe, or 15. So I have a bit of a history in terms of, knowing John and even some people in the field here.
So you've pretty much been around it forever?
Well, for quite some time, yeah. At least, I'd say if I'm 43 years old, yeah, gosh, yeah, 25 years or something.
Wow.
I'd say. I can't do the math right now. But,
that's close enough.
Yeah.
Hey, when you get up there in years, the math escapes you.
Yeah, it sure does.
Along with some other things.
So you mentioned that you actually got to spend some time with the Warrens. Did you go up to the house? I mean, you were right there. Did you get to go to the house? The Conjuring House?
No, never visited. Well, the Conjuring House, that was long before my time. I wasn't involved with that stuff at all, but I did investigate the Conjuring House with taps on ghost hunters. We did that house, I think, during our first season back in 2003 or something like that. So I have been there. I had investigated it. But when it was in the hands of the Warrens and and that sort of thing, I didn't have anything to do with it.
So you wake up one day, you're involved in the paranormal, you're young, right? You go on with your young teenage years, you graduate high school, you decide to go into law enforcement? Were you a police officer?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't a teenager. I was already in my 20s when I went into law enforcement. I was actually a jeweler with my dad.
How cool.
At a chain. He had a few jewelry stores, and went to the police academy at the same time, and became a police officer in my early 20s, maybe 22. But yeah, I did that for quite some time. I actually became an EMT before that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I didn't work very long as an EMT. It was sort of school on what they call the rig for a couple of months, and then I was out of that into the police academy. But yeah, I did. You have a good bit of research there.
Research, stalking, semantics.
Yeah, right. Semantics.
So how do you go from being a police officer to being part of TAPS and then on to the Ghost Hunter franchise, which you guys started?
That, when I joined forces with Jay, it was actually before I was a police officer. I met Jay when I think I was 18 or 19 years old. We started talking about the paranormal for a bit. I had my own team called New England Paranormal. I was investigating and doing some lectures, and I had taught a class at the Boston Center for Adult Education about the paranormal. This was in my early 20s as well. And that's when I joined forces with Jay. Then about, I want to say maybe 2 years after that, Jay changed the name of the team. It was Rhode Island Paranormal. Then it became the Atlantic Paranormal Society. Yeah, and that happened in my early 20s. So from 20 or 21, I was already investigating with Jay and with Grant and the team there.
Did you get pushback from the community on that? Because it wasn't as popular then.
Yeah, not from the paranormal community, but from just people on the street. Yeah, you couldn't tell people what you did, or else you were kind of made fun of, So we just did it because we had fun and we loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We're sort of, if not made fun of, definitely sort of raised an eyebrow too.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but that was one of the reasons we said we were approached with the thought of doing television. We had said no for a few years, and one of the main reasons was that we couldn't bring a television crew to people's houses. Nobody wanted anybody to know their house was haunted. It was a secret.
Right.
So we didn't. We were like, how can we bring a television crew? Yeah, so it was a little bit tough in the beginning. So we said no for a few years, but eventually, I think it was in 2003, we said, all right, let's do this.
They wore you down?
And we did. Well, there was one company, Pilgrim Films and Television, who finally just said, hey, we've been talking to you guys for a bit now. We think this idea could be a television show. We didn't even know people did this kind of thing. So we're going to do it. We're going to try to do it with or without you guys. And I remember they said, how do you want the field to be represented? You have a chance right now to sort of show the whole world, there's a field of people out there who do this. And how do you want that field to be represented? And that was sort of what made us, tip our decision a little bit. I remember that conversation.
Did you guys ever think when you said, okay, why not, let's do this, that you all, TAPS and all of this, would write the playbook for the field, like for the future? No, we didn't. It was kind of, it happened. It was kind of interesting because, people who were already in the field know we didn't invent EVP. We didn't, we weren't the first ones to pick up an EMF gauge. That was all, pioneered before us, that sort of thing. But it just wasn't, not that it wasn't accepted. It just, society didn't really even know it happened. It was, who knows why necessarily. But then all of a sudden,
we would have people saying that they're using these certain techniques and different things, and it's like, oh, I actually remember making that word up. Weird. Now it's like a thing, or I remember, really, wow, they took it, and now it's, a phrase that's used in the field. It's like, oh, gosh, I remember making that up on the spot when some producer was like, well, what do you guys call it? And I was like, oh, we call it tagging. That's what we call it. It's like, but now, it's a common word. So that stuff happens, and it's pretty cool to be a part of that.
I've got to ask you, again, something else that keeps me up at night. It is Steve, it is Jay, and it's Tango. How come it's not Steve and Jay and Dave?
He's always been Tango since we met him. We just always called him Tango. That just sort of stuck. Sometimes I call him Dave, but it feels weird. We'll both look at each other and be like, "Oh, why'd you do that?" I was like, "I don't know. It felt weird."
What was that, bro?
I don't call him Dave too often. Not many people do. Most people call him Tango.
Dude, I watched your show for years, for seasons. I watched your show before I knew his first name was Dave.
Yeah, that's right. His name is not. I mean, that would be a pretty cool first name, I suppose.
Tango?
Mm-hmm.
We'll just call him Tango
I don't know
Tango.
his last.
Yeah, Tango. Let's just keep it simple.
Or how about Yo Tango?
For a while, I think it was Dustin, just called him Jersey. That was how we referred to him. He didn't call him Dave or Tango. Just called him Jersey.
Poor guy.
Hey, Jersey. But Dave was 18 when we met him, so he didn't care much.
Boys will be boys with their nicknames.
Oh yeah.
Did you have any experiences that kind of sat with you? I mean, you've done hundreds and hundreds of these.
Yeah, I've had some things happen over the years, that I haven't seen a ghost. I'd love that to happen someday, but
it's unsettling. I'll tell you that right now.
Experienced plenty of things that I can't explain. There are experiences that stick with me, and it's usually things like slamming of doors or hearing direct responses, or when objects move. That's pretty startling.
Yeah.
That sort of. It's not usually a visual. I've had some visuals where I've seen things that I certainly can't explain. Myrtle's Plantation is one that comes to mind, but not nothing that has made me really say, "Ooh, I need to take a minute from this and figure out what I'm experiencing." It's all things that have kept me in the field and sort of moving forward.
I'm thinking about an episode I saw. I'm just trying to remember what season it was from, if it was from Ghost Nation's last season or if it was a rerun from an earlier rendition of you going down into a cellar. Does this ring any bells to you?
I mean,
and you running up the stairs. You running up the
We go down in those.
You've been in many cellars, I would imagine. Yeah.
Every episode, we're in a cellar somewhere.
Oh yeah. Oh, that one time I went down in a cellar.
This is one where you went down the cellar. I won't say scream like a girl, but then ran back up.
I do remember that. That was Ghost Nation season 1, and the one thing that kind of sucked about that is the reason that I wanted to go up those stairs, and the reason why Dave just said, "We'll go up there," is because we were hearing footsteps, and we knew that there was nobody else in the house, so we didn't know where those were coming from. But as I ran up to see where they were coming from, I ran into all those spiders, and that's what happened. I screamed and jumped down. I think I blacked out too.
Oh no!
Oh,
yeah, that happens. It's weird. It's not like I black out and pass out, but I'll sort of like a second later be like, "Oh, what happened? Where am I? What's going on?"
Oh, wow.
It's like my brain goes somewhere else.
And your darling friends just sit there and laugh.
Usually.
What's the matter, John?
Steve, I'm sorry. Hang on one second. Something's crawling on my screen, man.
Oh! Don't say that.
I think it's a black widow. Oh, I think it's a black widow spider.
Don't tease him about spiders.
Yeah, sorry.
He's pulling your leg. Although we do have a lot of spiders in our house, so you may never want to come stay here. So.
Yeah, I don't do do too well with those things.
All right, I got to ask you, this came up. I talked to Brad, John, and Alice, and Kendall, and Farah. This came up repeatedly. Let's talk about the Steve test.
Oh, I think what you're referring to is they call it the Steve filter, these guys?
Yes, the Steve filter.
Yeah, I'm very strict,
Oh, yeah.
when it comes to evidence and things that I consider, something viably paranormal. And, and sometimes it doesn't make people mad, but, maybe sometimes people think I'm a little too strict, so they started calling it the Steve filter. Yeah, they didn't. And even that ball, you've seen that in the documentary. And I'd had a tough time getting it back. That may have been what, coined that phrase, the Steve filter. It took a while, for me to really dig into that phenomenon.
I would think if anything would pass the Steve filter, it would have to be that. I mean, that was, I think everyone agrees that's seen it and experienced it. It's just, you can't debunk it. I mean, it.
The one they showed in the documentary, sure, but it happened before that, too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I can see why Steve would say, I didn't see what happened. I can't test the area. So I can see that.
Yeah. If it was just phenomena from a distance, something that someone told me about, or even if I'd probably, think about it with a raised eyebrow. Well, balls roll. That's what happens. Of course it's going to roll, but we looked into all that stuff. We looked into gas pockets underneath the house. We talked to geologists, and we couldn't get a geologist to talk to us on camera, but, through the process of trying to find one to talk to us on camera, I got to talk to, 20 or 30 of them, and was still able to pick their brain and get some information. Physicists, we looked into just about everything, and I'm not quite sure how to explain that, but a lot of that stuff happening at that house was pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Steve, you guys, I know you have a whole network, right? You've got this big, huge network. You've got paranormal investigators all around the country who can reach out to you and say, hey, I've got this case, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you probably get inundated. You guys probably get inundated with requests. What made you say, yes, Alice?
Well, yeah, we get a tremendous amount of cases. That one didn't come through our, our typical sort of network there. That was a case that came to my attention through other investigators, and actually someone who works in the business side of the industry had said, in passing, just he knew of this house that a few people had been to that had some interesting things, and I was intrigued. And at one point, they just kept reaching out to me through whoever they could reach out to me through, whether it be an agent or, another investigator or whoever it was. So eventually I started talking to them, and then made a visit out there. But that one, it was mostly, Alice and the people there that made me go there and investigate it the first time that I went. Just how sincere and sweet Alice is.
Oh, God, she's wonderful.
The local investigators, how cool they are, and I'm glad I went. Obviously, it was made some really good friends, and was able to investigate that amazing house. It was pretty awesome.
Is there any plans to bring the rest of your crew over there?
No, I don't think so. That's all up to Alice. What she's doing from this point with the house. She wants to continue its research, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times bringing a television crew to some places isn't the best way to service, that case or that haunting.
Yeah.
So there are times when we have cases that it would be great for an audience to see, but it's not necessarily what's best for the client. So we decide that that's not a case, that we'll consider for, televised purposes, that sort of thing.
It has to be a fair balance for everybody.
I am so glad he says this.
Yeah, it would be even just the hoopla that's, going on around our house right now. If it had, continuous coverage in terms of a TV show, it could be even more intense for her.
I'm glad that you say that. I really am. There's a lot of folks in the industry who wouldn't have thought twice, right, about bringing in their crews and stomping all over the place. But you guys go in, even with your show, with your regular clients that you have on the show, you go in there, and delicate's not the right word, but you treat everybody with such respect and you're just so good with them.
Well, consideration.
Consideration, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty impressive because you don't see that as much as you would like to see that in the industry.
Oh, thanks. I think a lot of the current state of the industry, all they know is, the television side of it. If you're 25, 26 years old, or 18, 19, 17, 16, the last 15 years, 16, 17 years since they were 8 or 9, 7 years old has been just this world of paranormal investigating on television. And a lot of people don't even realize that there's a reason to do it unless you want to be on TV. I've talked to people who are like, oh, you actually really do it? Like, what do you mean? Of course. They're like, it's not just for your show? It's like, what do you mean? I don't understand. Like, what are you talking about? So a lot of people who, get into the field and try to get onto TV, then they realize TV isn't happening, they leave the field. And that's strange, So that might have something to do with it, whereas they don't really remember the time before it, So maybe at no fault of their own, it's just all they know is that sort of, you go in with a television crew and investigate it, and that's it. We've had people who do things so exact to the show that they'll spend 10, 15 minutes, and we went in that room. Yeah, we're in there for just like you guys, 15 minutes. It's like, no, that's on the show, 15 minutes. Like, we were in there for 7 days.
Right,
3 hours a day.
right.
Just because you see it, edited down on television, that's not how it is in real life.
Not at all.
That's something I like about you guys is you do a true investigation. I know you condense a week down into a half an hour or 40 minutes or whatever, but it's actual investigation. There's no theatrics. There's no, oh my God, I saw a dust and it must be an orb. It's this blend of trying to figure out a logical reason before you jump to a paranormal reason.
Yeah. Rule out all the science and the logic.
There needs to be more of that.
Thank you. Yeah, we try to do it, to keep that sort of in our heads that not everything is a ghost, and we need to find out what it really is, because you're not doing any favors to anybody if you're misinterpreting or what you're experiencing.
Agreed.
You're not helping the client, you're not helping yourself, you're not helping the field.
Right.
You're not doing any good whatsoever. So being a little more thorough, I think is quite good. But because you talk to a lot of investigators, the average case lasts 4 months to probably 2 years. It's not like you just go in, if you're a paranormal team, you don't just go in for a weekend. That's your case and you're done. An average case is 4 months to 2 years. But on Ghost Nation, it's the closest that I've ever seen, in the world of paranormal television, in terms of it being a full investigation. And on, our previous show, you see a preliminary investigation, and then it's handed over to a local team, that sort of thing. But
right.
On Ghost Nation, we go full steam. And when you see these episodes that are 2 hours long, and we're just two seasons in, and there's 3 or 4 of them, maybe even 5, that have become 2-hour episodes. They don't start off as 2 hours. That's because we tell them that, hey, if we leave now, we're not helping these people. We need more time. We just figured out that this guy just died here, and he was mad at his brother-in-law. We have to figure this out, or we're not helping it, and they let us take that time, which is great. They let us do what we need to do a full and thorough investigation. So there have been times when we've been at a location with Ghost Nation for, a few weeks, and as long as the family's okay with it, we'll stay until the case is done.
Do you ever have a family that is not okay with it? It's like, hey, I know we called you in here, but, you've been here for 2 weeks, get out.
No, not really.
Cool.
No, usually by the time we leave, we're pretty close with the family. Yeah. I mean, most of the time we investigate, that they're at a hotel or something. It's not like they're staying there. They hand, their house over to us. So I'm sure that they want to get back in their house and have some sense of normalcy. But I can't remember a family really being like, "Oh man, you guys, come on, like get out of here." You know? It's usually like, "Oh, I'm gonna miss you guys. Oh,
Cool.
keep in touch." You know?
Cool.
But there's still,
And that says a lot about you.
yeah. There are clients from season 1 of Ghost Hunters that I still talk to. Season, of Ghost Nation that we still talk to quite often. So it's pretty cool.
I noticed that you guys were using a fog machine this season. Do you have any favorite equipment that you like to use?
Yeah, we've been using the low-lying fog. It's important to note that, not that it has to be, but you use that low-lying fog. You keep it thick into the ground so your eyes, can stay focused, and you see that move around without a source. It's pretty dang awesome. And we've been getting some interesting results with it. We have some sonar equipment that we've been using.
Sonar?
That you'll see in season 2. And it's different than the sonar that we started using already. In the first few episodes of season 2 that aired just before the pandemic there, we were using some sonar. And you'll see it in, there's an episode called The Witching Tree, and that's one where we dug up a tree. I think it was episode 2 of season 2. We had sonar there.
I remember that.
But this sonar is just a next level where you can actually move around. You can hold it and walk around with it, and it interprets everything it's seeing in real time, and it's quite awesome. So that is probably my favorite piece of new equipment. It's literally like having a visual readout of the space you're in, right in front of you in a visual display, and anything with mass that moves around in that space, it maps and shows you, and it's there in real time, right in front of you. So it's pretty amazing.
So back to the low-lying fog. Is that a CO2?
I knew that'd catch your attention.
Yeah. Is that a compressed carbon dioxide, dry ice-based thing rather than a heated liquid?
Oh yeah, that's exactly right. You run it through the dry ice as it comes out. There's a huge hopper that holds it. Once it starts to dissipate, the technique's over. It's the last thing we do at the end of the night. And once it starts to dissipate and sort of seep, we're done. Our investigation's over. So,
Well, and then it's time to hit the punch bowl because now it's effervescent.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Yep.
Very smart. Yep. We actually had it work, and I don't know if I can. We actually literally just filmed it maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, where you see something move into it, and it's there's no source from it. Where it came from is now filled in with smoke. So this is now just in the middle of the room.
Oh, how
and it's
cool!
Walking towards us.
Walking towards you?
Yes, it's pretty awesome.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That'll be on this season?
Yeah.
All right, good. So now we got something really to look forward to here. I know we only have you for a few more minutes, so I'm making a sad face about that.
Oh.
What's coming up for you guys?
We have, luckily, I think 14 or 15 more episodes that air for season 2 here. And they're all different in regards of that. The ones that you're seeing now have been filmed during this COVID and quarantine. So we've been able to focus quite a bit on the investigation and digging into the research and certain aspects of the research, because we weren't really able to go to museums and historical societies.
No,
but we had a lot of historians dropping off literature to us, and giving us maps and facts and things and emailing. And so we were still able to do but it really allowed us to focus on, instead of, having years of worth of data coming at you and trying to figure out, because we're only there for a certain amount of time, and I'm making a name up, but how long are you going to try to talk to George Henry, when you know that there's a gentleman there named Dave Thomas who passed away? It really helped us focus on certain areas that we thought we had better chances of success, and that actually worked to our advantage.
Do you do your own research, or do you have like a red shirt intern go out and do it?
It comes at us in a few different ways. We make phone calls and we go there, and you'll see us actually digging through documents but what's kind of fun is a lot of times when we, if we call a historical society and say, hey, I'm Steve from, whatever it is, and, whether I'm calling on behalf of TAPS or the United Paranormal Research Organization, whatever it is, by the time we actually get there, a lot of times they've pulled things that we
Very cool.
couldn't even have thought of, because we're not professional researchers like they are, so they'll be like, oh, we actually pulled this and got this, and there's this deed to this house and this, and, just because they have the name, they know who you're looking for, so they just start pulling everything, and a lot of times if you don't necessarily know how to do research as thoroughly as it should be done, which I'm not a researcher by trade, I
am.
don't try to do it as thoroughly. We'll see. So, they pull records for us that we wouldn't even think of, and so it makes our jobs very easy because I'll end up pulling out something and I'll be like, oh, okay, so that person died here. It'd be interesting to see if they also, owned the home at that time.
Right.
But I may not have thought to pull, the documents, whereas a historian's like, oh, I actually already pulled the deed in the house. And this, and that's like, oh, gosh, okay, thank you.
All the title transfer history
I don't
and
have
everything.
to know.
Here's a giant packet for you.
Yeah.
You've got a Halloween special coming up.
Yep.
This may air the day or two after it, but you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, that was quite a surprise, and a nice surprise. We the stars just sort of lined up where we were at a place, Seaview Terrace, and we're investigating, and we realized we needed more time, and we needed some hands, some extra hands, and some fellow investigators. And I think it was Jay sort of cocked his head to the side and was like, doesn't Amy live nearby? Like 15 or 20 minutes, and Adam's only like 2 hours away. And I was like, gosh, if they have time, that would be amazing, because they're both busy. Who knows where they are, what they're up to. But they were around, and it was like, oh, of course we'll come hang out with you guys and investigate that place. It worked out great. It was actually the first time Amy and I ever investigated together, which was really awesome. We've investigated on the same team together, obviously for 10 years, but never together as a duo, just going in and seeing what we come up with. That was a lot of fun. We have very different but very similar styles at the same time. It's quite interesting. I learned a lot from Amy, actually. It was very cool. We had some amazing activity. We caught some things that I can't explain, some voices. And one thing from the science aspect of it, we captured some anomalies in terms of just their energy readings. And we're able to track their movement and where they were going and how they were interacting with us. And that, to me, was so fascinating. As a matter of fact, when we, wrapped up for the night because the sun was coming up, I didn't leave. I couldn't leave. I just said to Jay and to, the other investigators and to the production company, I said, you guys can leave. Like, consider me off the clock with everybody. Like, I'm done too, but I can't leave and go back to the hotel. Like, I need to go down there and continue to study this. This doesn't happen, So I did. I went down there and documented it with, the gadgets we had until it completely dissipated. But that was awesome.
Oh, I am so looking forward to this.
Yeah. Television is great, and we owe it to our audience to show them everything that we're doing. But, unfortunately, just because it was time for the cameras to stop rolling, I just couldn't stop investigating that, because I'm a paranormal investigator. Mm-hmm. I needed to figure that out. I didn't know if I would ever come across that again.
Of course.
I went back down there and dug a little deeper into it.
Can you tell our listeners when it's going to be on?
Yeah, that actually is Halloween night, 8 p.m. Eastern, and it runs for 2 hours. It's a 2-hour special at Seaview Terrace. They're calling it Reunion in Hell, just in case this airs after it airs. You can look it up by title name, Reunion in Hell. And it really is quite a fun investigation. It was like a mystery. And some really interesting things happened. I don't want to tell you too much, but there was a warlock in there carving things into, the floor of one of the rooms during a ritual.
While you were there?
We had an uptick in activity that centered around a recent death. I'll let you see where that came from.
Wow.
We exposed this like high society sort of life that was happening at the mansion, where there were, looking through peepholes through walls and like really cool but mysterious stuff. It really is like a mystery, which, you're very familiar with the paranormal in the field. It's the paranormal in the history is always there, but it's not always a really cool mystery,
Right.
And this was a very, very cool mystery. It was awesome.
Wow, I am excited about seeing this.
Me too.
Listeners, if this airs after Saturday, make sure you go back, and I'm not sure, where can they watch it if they miss it?
They can get it on the Travel Channel Go app.
There you go.
Or on the Travel Channel website.
There you go, listeners. Travel Channel Go. Steve, I know we got to wrap up. I know your time is pretty much non-existent.
Oh.
Do you have any tips for somebody who is just starting out? Do's or don'ts or best practices?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a younger investigator, because some people, let's face it, they're getting in the field, at 14, 15, 16 years old. If you're a little bit younger, keep common sense about you, and don't think everything is a ghost. Don't forget to keep your flashlight handy. You might be inclined to forget that quite often, but it is quite valuable. Try to keep a notebook so that you can really log your experiences and what's happening and what's going on around you. If you're a little bit older and you're looking to really get into the field in a professional way, I think having a good understanding of energy is very important, and understanding how it can and can't interact with the environment is pivotal for the paranormal field. And that really is particle physics, right? And something I keep in mind is if it disobeys the laws of science, then most likely what I'm seeing or experiencing is not happening. I'm misinterpreting this experience, or it's in my head in some capacity, whether it's a telephonic or audiophonic visual, or if it's literally in my head because I've, didn't get enough sleep or something.
Yeah.
But if it disobeys the laws of science, most likely what you're experiencing, you need to take another look at it, because you might be misinterpreting it. And that's quite important, and some people may raise an eyebrow to that, but it just puts you in a mindset. For instance, if you see a shadow on a wall, you'd say, oh gosh, that's not a ghost, because a shadow can't be produced without mass. And if something, produced enough mass that it could create a shadow, then I would have to be able to see it with my eyes, not just the shadow. So it's not just a shadow. So what is creating this shadow? And now it's not a ghost. You could figure it out, and then it helps you think intent. Okay, shadow on a wall, what would the intent be? There is no intent there. It would just be in the room. It would show itself. It wouldn't, put itself on a wall. So then you start disproving things without even realizing you're disproving things. And, I'm not sure that I would think that way if I didn't sort of study scientifically a little bit.
How would you classify EVPs then? Because those kind of go against science, don't you think?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think it's very scientific. Everything in the universe, according to science, can be measured in energy, frequency, and vibration. And audio is all three of those things, right? You wouldn't be able to hear anything in the environment without frequency, vibration, or energy. And so I think that's a very scientific phenomena. I don't think it falls... it falls into paranormal because it's not explained, but I'm not sure that when you get this voice that you're necessarily, dealing with an intelligent being that is there in the environment. If you are, which I do believe that is true, I do think that can be as scientific as well. As a matter of fact, everything that we're dealing with in terms of the paranormal is science-based. It's steeped in science, and it stems from science. And so I think it goes hand in hand. I do.
Even the unexplained part of it, so even the parts of this that we can't explain through the science that we currently understand and know, it's still scientific.
Absolutely, for sure. For instance, if you talk to physicists right now, even if they don't personally believe that, there are interdimensional beings and that sort of thing. They do believe in other dimensions, because
Right.
Even though that science isn't proved right now, they believe that it's science of the future.
Yes.
So there are ways to look at things, and EVPs and different paranormal phenomena. Could it be solely, just a spiritual experience? Sure. But even still, there has to be something producing these sounds and visuals for our physical bodies to be able to interpret them. If anything, interacts with our physical environment here, then that becomes science, and it takes it out of spirituality.
Yep.
So that's just how. But I'm a Roman Catholic. Strongly believe in spirituality and religion. I clearly believe in the paranormal. So I think that it goes hand in hand. I raise an eyebrow and might even give a scowl to the science community who
Not a Steve scowl.
don't believe the paranormal is possible, and it's the majority of them, sadly. But there are some out there, Dr. Greg Braden and a few others who do believe in the possibility of both, science and spirituality. But you're right that it's not always a road that's traveled by both scientists and paranormal explorers.
We are very left-brain scientific people, so we do try to take things apart and figure it out from the inside out.
Smart.
It's like a kindred soul here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve, so much for taking time out of your crazy schedule to come and hang out with us crazy cats for a little while.
Yes, thank you.
You got it. My pleasure. Thank you. It was nice to talk to you guys. I appreciate it.
Come back anytime, dude.
All right. Take care.
Hey, if you like what you hear, and how could you not, we are freaking adorable. Check us out as Crazy Cat Paranormal on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. The links will be in the show notes.